Hey everybody, welcome back to the Clemson Tiger Wire podcast. We are so glad you're here joining us for this week's episode 15 of the Tiger Wire. Hey, if you're new to the family, make sure you follow us over on social media. We've got a Twitter, we've got Instagram, we've got TikTok, and all three of those platforms have different kind of content for you to enjoy. You get to see some behind the scenes stuff on Instagram where we're at the games, we're in the media post, in the post-conference media booth, that kind of stuff. TikTok, you see clips of the show as well as some other things. And then Twitter, you get to see just our behind-the-scene thoughts, our thoughts mid-game, during the game, after the game, during the week, that kind of stuff. So make sure you follow us over on there at the Tiger Wire on all platforms. TikTok is at the Clemson Tiger Wire. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us. We are so glad that you are here. Today, we're going to dive into our past two games, our game on last week against Louisville, where we walked away with a win, and then our game from Saturday, where we played Virginia, that amazing game that we had. So that's going to be what we talk about today. We're so glad that you're joining us. With all that being said, let's dive in. So first off, let's start off with the Louisville game. Clemson played Louisville this past week on Tuesday, and it was a game. It was a game that was nowhere near as close as it should be. Honestly, Clemson played really well at parts. They were up. They had a huge lead at parts. If you look at the largest leads of the game, Clemson was up by 24 points at one time in the middle of the second half. Were playing really well. I think it was an 8-point lead at the end of the first half, and then came off swinging in the beginning of the second half and kept playing really well, playing really, really well, up 24. And then they just stopped trying. They just was like, that's good enough. We'll stop playing. And actually allowed Louisville to get back within, I think, 3 points within the last couple minutes. So that 24-point lead turned into a 3-point lead in like a matter of like 6 or 7 minutes. It was crazy, pitiful, but ended up playing decent. I think part of the reason we played so well and once we're up by 24 at one point is Louisville did not shoot the ball well at all. They shot 34% from the field. They shot like 2 for 20 from 3-point line, and then 78% from the foul line. They had a pretty ugly shooting night. Clemson, on the other hand, did not have much better from three. They ended up shooting 5 for 21, so not too much better, 23%, but they did shoot 43% from the field, 22 out of 51. So you love to see that. Had a lot of free throws. Both teams had a lot of free throws. There was a combined 48 attempted free throws, 39 made between the two teams, so a lot of free throws made, but it was called both ways. Rebounds, gosh, 3 games in a row, Clemson has been out-rebounded. Here's how bad it was, though. Louisville out-rebounded us 48-29. 48-29. Our offensive rebounds, Louisville had 21. Clemson had 4. Unless ESPN is lying, I'm looking at the stats on ESPN's website right now. 21-4 offensive rebounds. Defensive rebounds was 27-25. Ugly. Gotta fix that. Can't happen that. But assists, we played well. It was another game, double-digit assists. Love to see that, 13-4. Steals, they had more. Blocks, we had 6 blocks to their 0. Total turnovers, 16-13. They turned the ball up a little bit more. But overall, Clemson played well. I'm not going to spend too much talking about that game because it was almost a week ago, so we'll move on. But Clemson ended up winning 70-64. You got to win over a team you should win against. That's all we'll say about that. It should have been farther than that. It should have been more than 24 points, but we took the gas pedal off. We let off the gas. So, but that was that game. Glad to see we got out on top, though. That was important, especially after that Duke game. Got to hit the road, come back at home and win a game. But then yesterday, we had a game against Virginia at home. And guys, I'm still upset about this game. I'm just going to go through the stats, and then we'll talk through a little bit more player, coach, for what they should have done, that kind of situation. But guys, gosh, it was rough. Virginia led the entire game. Clemson's biggest lead was by 3 points, and it was early. The rest of the game, I believe every single TV timeout, Virginia was winning. Some points they got up to 12-point lead. Sometimes it was closer, but gosh, it was rough. Field goal percentage, Virginia shot 44%. Clemson only shot 35% from the field. 3-point percentage, Clemson shot 35% again. Louisville or Virginia hit 33%. Free throws, Clemson, if we didn't get calls like we did, and I'll be honest, if you watched our last episode, I talked about PG Hall, and we'll get into this more in a second, but I talked about PG Hall not getting star treatment. He got it this game, and he hit 10 free throws because of it. We had 18 free throws compared to Virginia's 9. They double the amount of free throws that they did. If it wasn't for that, we were in trouble. And we'll get there in a second. But rebounds, again, we were out rebounded 38-33. They had 2 more offensive rebounds and 3 more defensive rebounds. Only had 9 assists. So, guys, if we don't have double digit assists, we lose. That's how it has been every time, I think, except for once. Steals, tie game, blocks. They had a couple more blocks. Turnovers. We only had 4 turnovers this game. That's it. 4 turnovers against a really good Virginia defense, and we still lost. God, you can't do that. You can't do that at all. Points in the bank, 30-22. Fouls, they had 17 fouls called on them. We only had 11. And with all that, we still lost. And so let's go into how the game ended if you weren't able to watch it. Virginia was up by like 8 at the end of after 8-minute TV timeout break. Maybe it was 6. 8 at the 12-minute, 6 at the 8-minute, 5 at the 4-minute, and we needed to come back. I think that's right. I could be off a couple, but we needed to come back soon. And so we hit the ground running. We made a huge comeback. At one point, Louisville was up by 12 in the second half, and Clemson started to come back. Clemson started to play well. They started to hit the shots. They started to play in defense how they needed to. They started to move it around. But then they just went to pieces. Late in the game, we had a chance. We had a chance to do it with 5.5 minutes left. PJ Hall hit his first 3-point. He was 1 for 6. 1 for 6. So he made his first 3 points with about 5.5 minutes left to go in the game. We didn't make another field goal the rest of the game. 5.5 minutes. PJ Hall hit a field goal. We did not make another field goal. We did not make another basket from the field the entire game. Let that sink in. True. Let that simmer. Let that sink in a little bit. We're playing Virginia, who, yes, has a good team defensively. And for 5.5 minutes of the game, we didn't make one basket? What in the world? How do you expect to win? And then we only lose by 1 point. We all that mess for 1 point loss. So 5.5 minutes left. We go through. We make a bunch of. We did shoot a lot of free throws late in the game. Virginia would make some. They'd miss some. They'd make some. They'd miss some. But fast forward to towards the end of the game, we're down by 6. Yeah, we're down by 4, 66-62 with 7 seconds left. PJ Hall shoots a 3, even though he can't make threes. He's made 2 threes at home against the ACC all year. Say that again. He's made 2 3-point shots at home against ACC opponents all year. He's like 2 for 26. It's pitiful. But 7 seconds left. We're down by 4. So what do we need? We need PJ Hall shooting a 3. But he got fouled, and he actually did well. He made all 3 of his shots, so put us to a 1-point game. Virginia calls a timeout, and as soon as they inbound the ball, Josh Beadle has a good foul on him, puts him at the line. It's a 1-on-1 situation. Perfect. We don't trust their free throw. I think they ended up shooting 9 for 13. So not the best free throw shooting team, and they didn't have a great free throw shooter at the line. Josh Beadle fouls him. They missed the first one, and we inbound the ball. So 7 seconds left. We have the ball, and we're down by 1 point. What does 98% of coaches do? You call a timeout, right? You say timeout. You run the ball to half court. You call a timeout with 3 or 4 seconds left so you can draw up a nice play and shoot. What does Brad do? Nah, play it. We don't need a timeout. We have a great offense, 65 points on Virginia. No made baskets in the last 5.5 minutes. We don't need a timeout. We can score. And so we come in. Chase Hunter gets it. PJ Hall's guarding under the basket, doesn't get a shot. And so what do? We pass it to Jack Clark, who has a decent looking shot from a little deeper 3 than we'd like. Shooting a 3, only need 2 points, and he clanks it off the front of the rim. We lose on that. That's how we lose the game. not have made basket in the last almost 6 minutes, not using our timeout to drop a play, which is standard coaching. If you're like playing a really good offense and you're Carolina this year, who's got a great offense, or you're Duke, who has a lot of players, star-studded players that can make a lot of points, or you're a team like that, 100% understand. Or if you're Tennessee with Connect, who's playing out of his mind, has like 6 30-point games this year. If you're that and you have a star player, don't call timeout. Let him do his work. We don't have that. We have PJ Hall, who's really good in the paint if he takes his time. We have Joe Girardi, who hits threes sometimes. And so instead of, we're already struggling to score, it's proved that if we just let them play, we're not going to score. We haven't for 6 minutes. And so instead of doing what the common sense would say would be to call timeout and drop a play so we can have a decent looking shot, we settle for a Jack Clark three. Jack Clark did not play well tonight. Jack Clark and Chauncey Wiggins, neither one had a good game. Jack Clark came off the bench, played 18 minutes, and went 0 for 5 with 0 points. But he took the last shot. Chauncey Wiggins started 1 for 5 with 2 points. You're letting a guy who hasn't played a lot this year, I think he's played 2 games where he has over 20 minutes, and that might be more than what he has. You're letting that guy take our final shot, 0 for 4 on the game before this shot. He had a great defensive game. Defensively, he had 8 rebounds, 4 offense, 4 defense, had an assist or 2 assists. He had 2 fouls on him, but he really played great defense down the stretch. Caused a lot of tough shots. But he's going to take our last shot? And you could have called a timeout to avoid that? Really? That's what you're doing, Brad? That's the call? I don't understand it. I really don't. I'm watching it. I was in my seats up in the back, and I sit on the baseline that sees Clemson shooting on our side the second half, and so I'm getting a wide open look at it, and the whole time I'm saying timeout, 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 and nothing. He just lets it happen. I don't understand. Don't get it. You're struggling offensive already. You're already struggling to make a basket. You're already struggling to score. And so instead of calling a timeout where you can try to create some rhythm, try to drop something that gives you a chance, you're going to settle for people on the court that haven't scored all day. I don't get it. That was disappointing. Ugly, ugly, heartbreaking loss. But we didn't just lose there. We lost the entire game. That's why they were leading the entire game. So we can blame that we didn't make a buzzer beater shot to win on that dumb call not to call a timeout. But the rest of it, you got to blame on poor play. Brad Brownell was asked about it in the last second, and he said, look, Virginia's got a great defense, and if we call a timeout, yeah, we can drop a play, but we're giving them a chance to drop a defense, and their defense is already really good, so you don't really want to do that. And no, you were just, that's a terrible take. Yes, they get to drop a defense, but you get to choose who you want taking the shot. You get to elect who you want taking the shot down the lane. That's worth it. Doing that would be worth having them have a set defense, especially because you haven't scored in 5.5 minutes. But gosh, frustrating. Let's go into player performances. Virginia has a best player for sure with Beekman, who's their leading assists and their leading in points. Tonight he wasn't a leading in points though. They had a bench player come in and leading points with 17. Grove shot 7 for 9, 3 threes. Had a good game with 17 points. Beekman had 14. He shot 5 for 17. He shot 5 for 17. McNeely shot 6 for 15 with 14 points as well. So had 3 people in double-digit scoring. That's rough. That's hard to do. No, it's not. I don't know what I'm saying. That's easy. 14, 14, 17. Their best player scored 14 points, shooting less than 33% from the field. Virginia's not an offensive team, though. Virginia, when you watch their score, if you look at them statistically, they're not the best offensive. It's defense where they make their money, and they defensively handled us tonight. But looking at Clemson's stats, our starting lineup was Joe Girard, Chase Hunter, Chauncey Wiggins, Ian Shefflin, PJ Hall, our normal starting lineup this year. Chauncey Wiggins, like we said, 1 for 5 with 2 points, 0 for 2 from the field, 1 assist, 1 rebound, 1 steal, 1 foul. Joe Girard, he had a decent night, 5 for 8, 4 from 6 from the 3. Started off hitting his first attempt, which is always good to see. Gosh, Joe Girard hit 1 from the scores table. I don't know if y'all saw that, but if you didn't watch the game, Joe Girard, he just took a shot from easily 10 feet behind the three-point line and drained it. I don't know why he did it, but he did it, and it was good. And then 2 minutes later, tried to do it again, contested, and terrible miss. I don't know why he did that, but he drained it. But Joe Girard had a decent day. He ended up with, like I said, 14 points, 4 threes, had a rebound, an assist, 1 turnover, 1 foul. Chase Hunter had an all right game. Chase Hunter went 4 for 8 with 12 points, 0 for 2 from the 3, but he went perfect from the line, had 2 rebounds, 1 block. He had a good block from behind, swatted on the right. It was a good one. But he had 2 turnovers. Ian Shefflin had on the board. He had a decent game. He had his normal game he's had this year, 13 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal. He had 3 fouls on him. And then PJ Hall did not have a good game. You look at the stats, it says 19 points. Yeah, I see that. But 10 of those were free throws. And he went 10 for 12 from the free throw line. He went 1 for 6 from the 3. He went 4 from 16. I'm going to say that again. 4 from 16 from the field. He shot 25% tonight. And most of those were right beside the basket. I can't count how many wide open shots beside the baskets Ian Shefflin and PJ Hall and Chase Hunter and all of them missed. We had so many that we missed right underneath the basket. And again, Brad was asked about this after the game, and it's contested down there. There's a lot of contact. Every single game is that way. There's contact. You're playing D1 Power 5 Conference ACC basketball. You're going to have contact. Make a layup. That's part of it. Frustrated. If you can't tell, I'm a little frustrated. We'll get even more when I'm frustrated in a second. So yeah, disappointed with that. Our bench collectively shot 2 for 12, and Beadle's the only one that scored points. Beadle had 5. RJ Godfrey, Jack Clark, and Dylan Hunter all had 0 points. Dylan Hunter didn't play a lot. Only had played 9 minutes. Didn't take a shot. Only stat that he has was 1 steal. RJ Godfrey played 11 minutes, went 0 for 3 underneath the basket misses. Only had 1 rebound, 1 assist. Jack Clark, again, defensively played a good game. Offensively, not so much. 0 for 5, 0 for 2 from the 3, including that last second shot. 4 offensive rebounds, 4 defensive rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 fouls. So, guys, it was a rough night. It was a game where it's definitely we wanted to forget, not what we wanted to happen. It was frustrating. Like we talked about, PJ Hall got star treatment tonight, got put to the line a lot, and if it wasn't for that, it would have been a blowout, which probably should have been how both teams played. I'll be honest, the first half and second half, very different teams. Second half, Clemson looked like they actually wanted to play. First half, they did not. But still, got to find a way to win. This is arguably the most talented team that Clemson has had in 14 years. And we're sitting at 14-7 after going 10-1 in the non-conference. We're struggling, fellas. We're struggling. We're struggling big, and there's no reason for it. There's no reason for Clemson to be struggling as much as they are, and most of them have been close games. You look at our losses: 1 point to Virginia, 1 point to Duke, 3 points in double overtime to Georgia Tech. The other first 3 losses were a little bit bigger: 15 points to Virginia Tech, 10 to North Carolina, but that was a lot closer game. That was 10 with all the free throws. It was more like a 5-point game, and then blown out by 13 to Miami. But recently, with our last 6 games, our last 7, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. We can't put together 2 wins in a row. We're just struggling. We'll win a game, and then we take it off. We lost to Virginia Tech by 15. We came back and won by 11 to Boston College. We lost in a double overtime against Georgia Tech. We beat Florida State. We lost to Duke. We beat Louisville. We lost to Virginia. If the trend continues, we should be to win our next game, which will be huge. Would be a huge win. We'll get to that in a second. But for now, we're going to take a quick break. And then after this break, we're going to talk about Brad Brownell, talk about some different topics. If you're a Clemson basketball fan, you've probably got some mixed feelings about Brad Brownell, if not just straight negative. So we'll talk about that in just a second. Awesome. Welcome back to the Clemson Tiger Wire. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to wind down here. Talk about 2 more things before we end. Talk about our Brad Brownell, and then we're going to talk about our upcoming matchup. But first off, let's talk about Brad. Guys, I don't know if y'all know this. If you're listening to Clemson basketball, if you call Clemson basketball, you know that there is a lot of people that do not want Brad Brownell to be the head coach of Clemson Tigers. There's a lot of people who think that Graham Neff should be firing him, should be moving on. Felt like last year he had the ultimatum where if he didn't make the tournament, he was out of there, and then he didn't make the tournament. But Neff was like, you should have made it, which we should have, but give him another chance. And then now this year had some of the best teams that he has had ever, some of the best teams that he has ever had, and nothing, not really pulling through with it. Started off really hot and has fell short dramatically recently. Guys, there's mixed feelings on Brad, and I'll be honest, after the Duke game, there was a lot of discussion in the media. There was a lot of discussion in the sports world over Brad's comments. And so if you didn't hear that, go watch that. You can find it on YouTube. A lot of people recorded it. Basically, Brad blamed the Duke game on the refs. And the refs were bad. I'm not upset with what he did there. If you take an isolated incident and never take any excuses, never make any excuses, I'm okay with you taking one game and saying the refs stole this, especially when they call a foul with 1 second left on the clock to give them 2 free throws to win. That I'm okay with that. My problem is now this. Brad just seems like every post game there's some kind of excuse. I hate talking bad about the guy. I like Brad Brownell. He seems like a good guy. I've watched all the post game and all the interviews, and I've watched all of him talking about his players. He loves his players. He seems like a great guy. He seems like an awesome guy. But when you listen to the post game interviews, there's some kind of excuse. When you listen to the Duke game, the excuse was the refs. Tonight, when he was asked about tonight, he's talking about the spirit of the team and how the team has gone through a hard time and how they're just down on themselves. And it feels like every opponent we play is in a really good spot mentally, but Clemson's not in a good spot. And the reason we lost was because of that and because our guys aren't in a good spot and because of the schedule. We have an unfair schedule and how he's having to be a cheerleader as much as he's having to be a coach. And I've stuck up for the guy. Go listen to the Duke episode. I stuck up for Brad after the Duke episode. So many people did not. You can go. You remember Michael from Duke Blue Central? Go listen to his. He laid into Brad. He didn't have a feeling. That was the common theme throughout the sports of how Brad shouldn't blame the refs. And I stuck up for him because I'm like, you know what? Nah, tonight you can blame the refs. Tonight you can do that. But then tonight you're going to blame the loss on this team spirit. And you're going to blame the loss on the guy's headspace after going through a rough stretch. That's not winning. You're not going to win like that. You've got to win if you're going to take responsibility. You're going to say we lost because we did trash. We lost because we shot terribly. We lost because we turned the ball over. We lost because we couldn't box out. We lost because of this. You don't say excuses. You say these are why we lost. This is what we've got to get better. Now let's go do it. It's frustrating. And Thursday night, I was having a conversation with a friend, and they were like, what's your real thoughts? Where do you really feel about Brad? Do you like that he said that in the interview? And I told him, I was like, look, personally, no, after the Duke game, but I get why I did it. And honestly, I'd probably say the same thing. And then now it's just, it seems like this is going to be, it seems like there's a pattern forming when we lose, it's not what can we fix? It's, the team chemistry's down or the team spirit's down or they're not in the right headspace and our opponents are in a great headspace. When the ACC and we lost those first 3 games that against Miami, Carolina, and Virginia Tech, Brad said, it stinks because we got a terrible start to the ACC. We started off really hard while other people have an easier start. Might have been true, but no, you lost. There's no reason we lost to Miami by 13 points when our players just didn't show up. Carolina, we shot 1 from 18 from the 3-point line. Virginia Tech, I think our guys forgot to get off the bus. We've got to start, I think, until Brad says, guys, light a fire, lay into him, get onto him. He does during the game, but it seems like post-conference and after, again, we don't know what's going on in practice. He could be chewing him out in practice, and I hope he is. But in the post-conference, it seems like he's given every single guy an excuse to be like, hey, here's your get out of jail free card. Here's your reason why you're losing. Here's the reason, the excuse on what's going on. And it's frustrating. I think it's time for him to take some more responsibility. I'm not going to say that we need to fire him. I'm not going to say that because I really like the guy. I think he could do something special, but I am going to say we have 5 home games left, and then we also have 5 away games. So we got 10 games left in the season, and it's not an easy schedule. We got against only one more against a top 10 team or top ranked team. But then we'll go to Syracuse, host Miami and State, go to Georgia Tech, has some big wins this year. Against Florida State, against Pitt, at Notre Dame, against Syracuse, and end at Wake Forest. We don't have the easiest schedule left. You've got to see some improvements. We've got to see some steps. We've got to see this team playing like this team can. We've got to see this team truly coming together and getting connected and starting to be the talent that we have. What happened to the team that went to Alabama and beat them by 8 points? What happened to the team that played so well against TCU? What happened to those teams? That team was completely different than what we've seen so far in the ACC. And it's not because of team spirit. It's not because of our headspace. It's because of our players' performances and our coaching decision. And it's time that the responsibility is took and we take the next steps to get better. So that's my challenge. Brad Brownell will probably never hear this. No player from the NC Clemson will ever hear this. But if they do, that's the next step. Please just take some responsibility. Let's move forward. We're better than this. Do better than this. So that's my thoughts on Brad. We'll give you an update after the Nets game. We'll see how that goes. But last two things we're going to talk about is one, Alex Hemingway, my favorite Clemson player right now, should be coming back soon. He was cleared to before the Louisville game, and Brad was like, I want to give him a little bit more time. And then he had Virginia yesterday. So hopefully Tuesday he comes back. Hopefully we get to see him in action. Would love to see him back on the court. Really excited about that. But our Nets game, we're excited about it. We got Tuesday. We're going to Chapel Hill, where they just had a big win over Duke on the yesterday evening. We're going to Chapel Hill. We're excited. This is going to be our second time in Chapel Hill. The Tiger Wire, we're going to be there. We'll be there live, recovery media, go to the post conference, that kind of stuff. It'll be our first time going to an away arena and covering media. So we're really excited about that, other than National Championship. So we will come to you live. We'll probably put an episode out Wednesday talking about our thoughts from that Tuesday game. But make sure you follow us over on Twitter to keep up to date. But I think that is going to do it for this episode. That's going to be about all we have. Make sure you stay connected. Look forward to future episodes. Again, follow us on social media. Leave us a review. Written reviews are awesome. 5 stars are awesome wherever you're listening to. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got some clips over there, and you could watch the podcast right now if you're listening to it. Come watch us. You get to watch us talk about it. And then coming up soon, we also be looking forward. We'll be having our ACC midseason report when we have Anthony and Michael back on the show talking about that. So it's going to be great. A lot of exciting stuff coming soon. But until then, we can't wait to see you then. Keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers.